And so for today's review, we have the BX-24 Random Booster Volume 2 WyvernGale 580 Gear Ball. Now, not only is this a very hyped up blade, but this is a very hyped up bit because I've been hearing a lot of buzz about this bit being very, very good on the Phoenix Wing. So that's something I do want to test out in the future, but for this Gale in particular, it just seems like it's a really good stamina type blade from what I've been seeing online, a lot of talks. So I do want to put it to the actual test on how good of a stamina type it really is. So although we already looked at the blade in the unboxing video, I do want to take another just quick look at it and just kind of point out a couple things. So there are some obvious gaps in between here. I'm wondering if that actually plays any kind of factor into its overall usage in the meta, because there's just like gaps everywhere in this blade. So I don't know, maybe some guys down below, can you, explain to me if this is actually more of a hindrance or if this actually helps it out with the wind resistance, because if it's kind of like, I think it's flowing this way, is the wind just kind of also gliding through inside the blade, which just allows it to kind of cut through the wind a little bit better. Let me know if that is the case. Like, I'm not an engineer for Beyblade, so I don't exactly know the science behind the kind of ingenuity for these blades. But I mean, just the way it's kind of like more rounded and all the holes, it seems like it is just a lot better for wind resistance. And I would never stop mentioning that the bit beast on the middle just looks amazing. I really, really love it. I'm a huge dragon fan, so like anything that's like dragon based. I mean, I used to run Blue Eyes and Red Eyes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially in like Duel Links. Red Eyes meta was like my favorite meta. Blue Eyes, I used to run it all the time in Masters. So honestly, just dragons, wyverns, drakes, all of them, they're phenomenal. I really just love the motif and the overall color. In person, I know it doesn't really justify it on camera, but man, in person, this is so beautiful to look at. And once more for the inside, I know this was briefly mentioned, but I didn't actually mention these little protrusions. It does have like these little protrusions on the inside, so this is a much wider gap for when the ratchet gets inserted. This would usually be a little bit closer inward, but instead they have these 3 little protrusions on the very ends of this. So I'm kind of wondering how that really overall plays an effect to the burst resistance. So for the ratchet, it is going to be a 580. The 5 protrusions is obviously something that you really don't want with something that's going to have a lot of possibility for bursts. You want these to be much smaller and fewer. So 380 would probably be better for the stamina type. Even 360 is fine, but I'm starting to notice maybe 80 is a little bit better in stamina usage, because I often find myself scraping across on the bottom when I'm like starting to lose stamina. And with the extra height, that means that the metal itself would be less likely to scrape across the actual arena. It would be closer to the ratchet because of the total length. So perhaps the 80 is not too bad, but I would probably go with something that's like a 380 instead, or something that's like, just much bigger in total, that has smaller protrusions, because these are pretty wide and pretty far out. So I honestly am not too keen on a 580, but I will try out a 380. And lastly, let's talk about the bit. So this is going to be the Gear Ball, which is really amazing. I've tested it out a few times, and this is a really cool bit. The main problem is that it is not going to have a thicker base, so it's not really good for burst resistance. This is something that's going to just overall not lock in the actual base. So if you do want something that is going to be more burst resistant, this isn't really going to be it. This is kind of more for just stability and also getting off some really good counterattacks if you land on the side of the arena. So that's the way I'm viewing it. It's not really that great for burst, so if you are going to use this, you're probably going to want a better ratchet in total. Alright, so for the first match, we're going to be doing the Gale stock as well as the Shark Edge with a 360 ratchet and a low flat bit. with a burst and over finish, the Shark Edge wins. Next, let's do the WyvernGale stock against the Phoenix Wing with a gear ball. Once again, the Gale just kept on bursting, and especially against the very powerful Phoenix Wing. So now for this match, instead of just going for stock on the Wyvern, I'm actually using a 380 needle and just seeing if this is going to have a little bit more survivability and hopefully does not burst as much. But the bit is not going to have any kind of layered texture, so like no thickness. So the bit is essentially going to be the same burst resistance as the gear ball. Alright, so once again, the Phoenix is gonna win. Man, I don't know what it is. It's just almost every single time I launch this, even just off screen, it just keeps bursting. So to wrap up my thoughts on the WyvernGale, honestly, let's just start with the blade. I think it's fine. It's not a horrible blade. I just don't really know what to do with it in terms of customization, because obviously at default, this just does not, it doesn't seem to be the most ideal setup for the blade, because it is just bursting all the time. I've tried so many instances of maybe launching the attack type, bay first, and then launch this one just to see if maybe it's I'm launching this one too soon and the attack one has way more energy to hit it and burst it. And I put it on a 360, that didn't work. I've tried a lot of different things, and it just seems like the blade itself, it needs something else. Maybe something that's not currently released in Beyblade X. So I'm just gonna be a little bit more patient. I'll keep testing some stuff. I honestly think that going at 360 is going to be your best bet, and trying to get a bit that might just be a little more aggressive and maybe not as stamina heavy, because you want that burst resistance. And a lot of these more stamina and defense oriented bits, they're just not gonna have that burst resistance assistance, that thickness, so that way you can go ahead and have a little bit more survivability on the field. Now the bit itself, I did testing offline, and you've seen with the Phoenix, it obviously works really well, but I did test it on some other different bays that I would like to do in the future. But so far, the gear ball is really nice. I really like it on the Night Shield. I really, really love it on the Hell Scythe. So this one is probably gonna be the one I'm gonna use on the Hell Scythe, and that's probably gonna be like one of my main deck bits. So I definitely want to try it out and just see how it works, but if it doesn't work as well on the Hell Scythe as it does with the Phoenix, I might just switch this over to the Phoenix and then give the Hell Scythe the high needle or just the needle, one of those two. Now to just summarize, I do think that the Random Booster Volume 2 is still worth getting for the bit and to get at least one Wyvern, whether it is the yellow one or the green one. Either one is going to be perfectly fine. But I think it is going to be worth having this in your arsenal, because the meta is probably going to be shaping up way different in the next couple of months. Just seeing a lot of these gear-oriented bits come out, I think the meta might start shifting to a more aggressive style. We'll have to see, but I think having this in the backup is always great to just really shape yourself with the meta as it keeps evolving. But that's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It means so much to me if you can go ahead and give this video a like if you did enjoy the content. Especially thank you for just watching all the way through the end. If you do like the channel, give it a subscription. I'm going to be posting a lot more crazy Beyblade X stuff in the future. Not only just vlogs, tournaments, and coverage, but I might start doing some other stuff as well in terms of customization for bays, as well as just maybe some skits involved. And comment below if you do have this. Let me know what your thoughts have been on it. If you don't have it, are you going to be getting it? But that's it for me, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next Blade video. Bye-bye.